The Starlight Lounge presents An Evening with the Progressive Box.
Oh, what a great audience. Let's dim the lights for this next one. Oh, too much. There it is. Gotta get things just right. Like Progressive's Name Your Price tool. Tell us what you want to pay and we help you find coverage options that fit your budget. And now, the mood is right. Wait, the lights are back on again. Trudy, can you? And now it's completely dark.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
Blog Talk Radio.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. You can see that I'm 5 minutes late. Oh, my God. This is what happens when we try to plan a radio show when we don't live here. Surprise. Hi, everybody. In case you aren't watching me on social media, you already know that I am in L.A. Well, I'm not actually in L.A. right now, but I'm doing my show from a Denny's. I don't even know where I am exactly. So I'm here, though. I'm a little bit late. I just want to do my announcements super fast because I know Lucinda's been waiting for a while. A couple quick things. Huge shout-out to the publicist that organized this today, Antonia Hall. She was gracious enough to have me over the other night. Absolutely lovely, most breathtaking, beautiful being. So thank you so much for orchestrating my interview today with Lucinda and, of course, putting up with me, obviously. So first, I wanted to start off with that. Second of all, I want to remind everybody I'm back in Wisconsin tomorrow. And, of course, next week we're going to be doing the big push to finish the auditions for my film, Love to a Mirror. If anybody is interested, please go ahead and check out Facebook. You can send me a message there. Again, the name of the film is Love to a Mirror. Otherwise, you can email me directly, CIN4251@gmail.com. Anybody in LA today can audition with me. My trip to New York City is on May 24th. You can audition for the last time there because shooting's going to be starting within, God willing, a month. So I'm super excited. And one more reminder on my film festival, Art is Alive Film Festival. Anybody who still wants to submit, you have one more month. That is on Film Freeway. You can go to Art is Alive Film Festival. Or else go to my website, artisalivefilmfestival.yolasite.com. And again, we're accepting screenplays, we're accepting web series, shorts, features, and youth films. All films that are not youth films are $30, youth films are $10, and of course, screenplay submission is $20. So if you can do it, please go ahead and do so. So without further ado, I'm going to get Lucinda on the line, and you can start listening to her and not me. Lucinda?
Yes, Cindy.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm here. You can
Yay.
see that I'm a wee bit late, and I feel so stupid because, of course, I'm not from L.A., so I just checked out of a hotel. I raced to find some place to get Wi-Fi because I'm doing the show live in from L.A., and I'm not from L.A., I'm from Wisconsin. So I'm, like, running around trying to find a place, put my order in for food, do all this stuff, and try to get on the air. But I'm here. I'm here.
Oh, my gosh, you're here, and I love it. We need to breathe. Take a deep breath.
Yes, I'm trying to breathe because I'm like all that pressure, like, oh, my God, I'm so going to be late. And then when I leave this show, I have to race 30 minutes or 40 minutes away from here to meet somebody else and then another meeting, and then I go home tomorrow. So I'm like, there's so much craziness going on, but I'm here, and I'm so excited because there's so much to talk about with you. So I don't want to talk about me because everybody likes to talk about Cindy, and I don't like that. So let's talk about my guests. They're more fun. And there's a lot to talk about with you because I know a lot about you. First of all, I want to start off asking a very, very simple question, which is the logo on your website is to die for. I absolutely think it's so badass. I'm like, I have to ask her where she came up with the logo. You know the logo on the bottom of your website? Very, very cool.
Oh, yeah.
Where did you come up with that idea?
Thank you for noticing and asking. I have goosebumps. It came to me in a dream. There's much symbolism. Yes, there's a lot of symbolism, and that's what I like to do is read and interpret the signs and the symbolisms in life. That's part of what guides me.
Sure.
So the triangle means fire. If you look at, I don't even know what culture it is, multiple cultures. There's four triangles for the four elements, air, earth, fire, water, and the upward triangle is fire. I have a lot of fire. I possess a lot of fire in my astrological chart, and the two crescent moons overlapping have I love the moon. I follow the moon. It's a symbol of divine feminine.
Sure.
And two crescent moons overlapping with the hole in the middle, it's that portal of birth and new life or to other realms. So there's a lot going on there.
Exactly, and it's so beautiful, you know. I mean, it just symbolized peace to me. For some strange reason, I was looking at it. I didn't know the symbolism behind it, but I'm like, I have to ask about that because these are just the weird things that us creatives notice sometimes. I'm all about symbols, and I'm all about that stuff. So thanks for doing that. That's really an eye-catching sort of thing, I think, and it speaks a lot about you because obviously you created that yourself. So I'm impressed, to say the least. But I want to talk about I want to stop a minute. I get the sense that you've been a free spirit literally from the first moment you took your breath, very first breath. I'm envisioning this beautiful, very peaceful free spirit that came out of the womb. And so I want to ask you, because you're a little over 30, I'm guessing. So I want to say, as we age and mature, I notice that we get more in touch with our free-spirited side. Would you concur with that?
It really depends, because we all have free will and free choice, and sometimes our thoughts take over, and we ignore the free-spirited part of ourself. But that is the intention. That is the intention, that we're spiritual beings having a human experience, and we have to do things to fit into society and follow rules and make a living so that we can feed ourselves and have a roof over our heads and socialize with people properly. But I believe all is good until it's out of balance. And our society, our planet as a whole, humanity tends to overemphasize the tangible human aspects of things, the doing and the accomplishing, and overthinking, so that we neglect this person that we were as a child, our inner wildness, our spontaneous inner authentic self, which is, it's an essence.
Right. I would agree with you completely.
Some people, sorry, I was just going to say that the whole, I think when you get to your elder years, our society neglects elders and sort of does everything they can to deny death and be young, and that's the time when you're really meant to embody your spirit after you've lived your life as a human being. Now it's more about your spiritual self and sharing your wisdom to connect with the youth and help the planet be a better place.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. And I totally love that. I literally love what you just said, especially the part about the balance, because I remember there was a time, obviously, where you were working in corporate America. I saw the notation about IBM, of course, and you were working in that realm. And, of course, you go all of a sudden from that to doing something completely different with your entire life. So most of us, I think, sometimes can't tell when we're off balance. In fact, most women that I speak to, they're not really in tune with themselves. Do you know what I'm saying? So how did you sense that you were off balance? What signal or what sign was there that you weren't where you were supposed to be?
Yes, that's such a good question. How did I feel off balance? Well, I, as you mentioned, was a free-spirited nature child from age 0 to 11. I was raised by a single mother, and then she remarried when I was 11, and all of a sudden we had affluence, and the values were material accomplishment. So I was sort of reshaped, and I found at age 27 I had done everything that my father and society and culture and media had told me to do, and that was, my version of it was get an advanced education. I had an MBA. I worked for IBM, big company with a lot of status. I went on a lot of diets to be slender. I was living in Los Angeles. I drove a Porsche. And I had been promised that if I did that, I would fit in and be adored and loved and successful. But what happened was I didn't feel that way on the inside. And so at 27 years old, I had a crisis, and I thought, why am I not happy? Why do I not feel loved? And I spiraled into a depression, quit my job, moved into my parents' home, and had thoughts of suicide as I lay on the couch in the basement for many months.
Oh, my God. How traumatic. And not only that, what happens is you get into that funk, and I think, as you mentioned, you find yourself sifting into a very severe depression, which, of course, can lead to things, suicidal thoughts, bad behavior, etc. Did you seek out professional help at that point in time, or how did you adjust to going from a seemingly happy person who is stable, financially stable in terms of a job, etc.? How did you balance that? How did you get to a point where you're like, you know what, I need to start finding something. I'm in major trouble here? Because some people just sift and kind of fall through the cracks, don't they?
Yes, exactly. And it's no fault of their own. It's just what our society teaches us and reinforces.
Right.
It's just something that's been handed down over many generations, and there's a lot of reasons why, but really the whole point is to overcome that and to become your authentic self. And I think because I had the 10 years in nature as a child and a free spirit, there was something strong underneath me that wouldn't give up. So I I did have to make a big choice, though. I had to pull away and break away from my family at that point because their values and belief systems didn't resonate, and they were not understanding what was wrong with me. So luckily, I ended up in psychology and made a commitment to work with a psychologist every day, which sounds like it wouldn't be a big commitment, but it is, because you have to carve out time for work, and you have to do homework in between, and you have to track yourself and try to make change. So the other lesson I learned, time and lessons are not linear, they're circular, so they keep coming back for another round. And at that point in time, my big decision was to not kill myself, to seek help, and to pull away from my family so I could try to figure out what was really going on here, why I was so unhappy. And in order to do that, I had to go right back and get a job to make money to support myself. So I went right back to high tech and was going to therapy simultaneously. And 3 to 5 years in, I met my husband at work, and I went right back to the affluent lifestyle that I had rejected. But this time it was different because it was my choice. And I wasn't even consciously aware of what I was doing or why, other than that's what I knew, but I had more self-awareness. So it was another round, and it was more fun this time because it was on my terms, my way. And then my life has gone through so many cycles and seasons to get to the point where I am today, which is 58 years old. My children are in college, and now I'm taking all the wisdom I've gathered through all these transformations I've gone through and sharing it with people. So I just want to say one more thing. It's not about blaming my parents. At first I blamed my parents, but as I got into these multiple stages in my life where I hit a wall and needed to transform again, I realized there were lessons in what I went through, and it was all intended. And I have a very good relationship with my parents.
That's awesome. I was just going to ask about that because obviously I imagine that the break from a parental situation, meaning if you have a good working relationship with your parents and then having to pull away from them, there must be some angst about that, or anxiety or sadness associated with that. That's a big step for someone to take, you know?
It's a really big step. And, we were talking 1987. There wasn't a lot of context. I didn't have a lot of role models or people to help me and support me, not even friends. Because on the outside, if I had a conversation with friends or adults in my arena where I lived, they just looked at me like I was from Mars and said, I don't feel sorry for you. You're rich and beautiful, and you are educated, and you come from a great family. What a crybaby. Get over it.
Wow.
And that made me feel worse. Because I thought, they're right. I'm so blessed. I feel horrible. That made me feel more crazy. So I was just stumbling in the dark, learning, and I was an avid seeker of the meaning of life and learned with so many different teachers and gurus, and then applied to myself and immersed in situations and I was always tracking my thoughts, my emotions, and my words relative to people, places, and things. And I was looking to see if there was consistency.
Right. And, of course, my other big question relative, if you don't mind me going back to the depression part. First of all, do you think it's possible, because there are some critics and some actual people that have gone and even written books about this, the fact that when everything starts to fall apart, that's when everything comes together. So in some ways, would you be frank enough to say the depression in some ways was not always a detriment to you, meaning that there was a plus point that came from that and gave you better direction?
Yes, absolutely. That is one of my greatest messages, because I'm always looking at the lesson. What am I intended to learn here, and how can I learn it?
Right.
And looking back on my entire life, every time I had a problem or a devastation, whether it was illness or financial or with a friend, or there's always a lesson. And so then I would say, okay, what's really going on here? And I would seek many different gurus and modalities and books to really get at the bottom of it. And what I realized is there's kind of an overlaying way that the universe works. There's threads of wisdom that span all time, is what I'm trying to say. It doesn't matter if you're I believe what religion you are, what race you are, where you live, what your socioeconomic background is. There's this common essence about life that if you tap into it, it's just like nature. Things are always growing and dying in a circular pattern of birth, life, death, and rebirth. If you look at a tree, or if you look at seasons, or even the moon. And we, as humans, are nature, and it's the same thing.
And what a beautiful way to look at that, because oftentimes, especially in the year 2018, and I'm sure you're quite familiar with this, we are in a state of distress as it relates to society and happiness and what we define as happiness. And of course, things have gone amok in our society. So when you look at that and just the way that you're speaking about society and culture, it makes it so beautiful and sounds so peaceful. And that's something that I think we've gotten away from, clearly over the course of time, sadly, I must say. Now, again, back to you lived in a corporate America, so to speak, and worked. Honestly, was it an actual task and a tedious task, maybe, or I'm guessing it must be challenging to go from having structure like that, meaning you've got a regular job every day, you've got financial stability, et cetera, and then all of a sudden, bam, Lucinda decides, okay, my path is going this way. Did it take you a little while to get readjusted from the corporate America standpoint, or status, I should say?
Yes, it did. And, like I mentioned before, life's not linear. So
Sure.
What happened when I went back to corporate America and met my husband, I actually was asked to leave the company because it was disruptive since he was the CEO, which is a whole other story and a whole other lesson. And I felt like a woman who had been ostracized from the corporate world because I was dating someone. Nothing unprofessional went on from my perspective, but it was just threatening back in 1989 for a woman to be dating the CEO. I came from IBM where they encouraged people to date because they wanted you to stay there for life and it would be your family. So different perspectives. So that was one hurdle I had to get over, that immediate loss of identity when I left the company and not having my whole identity, which was my career. But it worked out for me because I did end up marrying this man, and we had an amazing life together, including children. And I went into a whole other phase of learning, the marriage, the relationship, and a new kind of affluence, and then the children. But like I talked about before, the cycles and the lessons, I got to that point after my children were babies and toddlers that I really just wanted to focus on being a mother. That's what my life was all about right then. And I didn't want to keep being the CEO wife, the socialite. But our society really doesn't like change. And I inherently knew that I needed to change. It was a death phase. It was an ending, a completion, and I was ready for something else to learn. And yet, as women, we're taught to do it all, so we just keep adding more things, doing more things as we get older, and then we become exhausted and depleted.
Oh, my God, yes. I mean, it's like you're inside my brain right now. That's kind of scary. Because I hear that story a lot, especially for those of us who are, obviously very heavy-duty career. We feel like we have the weight of the world on our shoulders and we have to carry that. Is there ever a time where you missed that part of your life, where you maybe say to yourself on occasion, you know what, I kind of wish I was back in those days and I was at this job and I was doing this? Is there any part of that phase that you missed?
I have never done that because I am so fully present in every phase of my life, and I live it and immerse it that I just am ready. I was like, okay, I've immersed it, I know it, and now I intuitively know it's time to end that and move on. But I take bits and pieces with me, and that's the whole point. If you get to my age and you look back, you see the lighted path. It's all making sense. So now I'm an inner wildness guide coaching women in the same way that I learned, and it really helps me to have that corporate background because I understand business structure. I am really good at public speaking. When I try to work with people who are corporate people, they can relate to me because they know I've been here. So see how everything is good and intended? You may not know that in the moment.
That's just unbelievable.
And change is refreshing. It brings renewal. We are taught to be perfectionists and do it all. We can't have a flaw. We can't have an ending. We can't have it's a failure if you don't do that anymore. And that creates a really stiff facade. And this wildness we're talking about, our inner essence, our childlike playful self, gets contained inside that perfect facade and structure that we've built over the years.
Oh, my God, yes, absolutely. Now, I see from my notes you're a San Francisco resident, so I have to ask this question. I haven't been back to San Francisco in years. I would have pegged you for a Venice Beach kind of person because I got the first chance to stay at Venice Beach the other day, and I was like, oh, my God, this would totally be a place for you. Everybody is so grounded, very hipster-like. I'm like, this would be a perfect realm for her. So why San Francisco?
I know. I love Venice Beach. So awesome. Oh, that's such an interesting question. I think a lot of us have dichotomies. We have different parts of our personality, and some of it is environment, and some of it we're born with it, and some of it we develop. I ended up with my family in the Bay Area. I don't live in San Francisco. I actually live 40 miles south of San Francisco, so I'm actually in the country, in nature right now, looking at the beautiful Santa Cruz Mountains undeveloped. And so I'm here because my family was here, and family and roots are very important to me. My parents live 5 minutes away. I have grown stepchildren and grandchildren and my own children in this area. But I did live in Los Angeles for 10 years for that very reason. There was a time when I wanted to get away from this area, get away from my influence in my culture, and experience something new, and it was Los Angeles that I resonated with. I loved it so much. But then ultimately there was a calling for me to come back to my roots, and that's why I'm here.
No, that's so touching and beautiful. And I don't think people really realize, because I don't get a chance to get out in nature much. That's one of the things on my list, of course, to obviously change. Sometimes you can take for granted all the very simplistic beauty that lies there that isn't in regular culture. You know, when we go to L.A., when we go to Hollywood, when we go to all these places, or even if people aren't in California, you miss the very simple things because you're too busy ignoring them. I guess that's the way I put it. I'm like, I don't think you intentionally ignore them, but you kind of shelve them, and then all of a sudden you go out in nature like this, and you become one with the world. And I think that's something that we're missing, something you have a great heartbeat on that, in fact. We're about to talk about that, as a matter of fact, because to those that are listening in that don't know, you wrote this beautiful, beautiful book by the name of Confessions of a Bone Woman, Realizing Authentic Wildness in a Civilized World. Now, I would love for you to talk about your delving into animal anatomy is fascinating to me. First of all, I'm thinking, why would anyone do that? And I'm not judging, but I'm like, oh, my God, what is fascinating about this to this woman? Talk to the folks about how you got into it, because it's an interesting story. And more importantly, what have you learned about animals? Is there a parallel between them and us?
Thank you so much for asking me about the animals and what they mean to me.
Of course.
Yes. So I was going on this journey, as I told you, through my whole life, trying to compare how I feel on the inside compared to my outside and what made me happy and to feel lovable. And somewhere in the middle of being a mother, maybe when they were teenagers, I was exhausted. I loved being a mother so much, but by the time they were teenagers, I was exhausted because, as I mentioned, I kept piling things on and doing more and more and more, as women can do, and as women do. I knew, I had always sensed my life there was a greater meaning. There was something more to life than this, and I learned it through the animals. Something shifted in me when I had children, and I flashed back to my childhood and remembered I hadn't been out in nature since, for decades.
Sure.
So we bought a ranch that had nature on it, and it transformed my life. It began speaking to me. I started finding bones from animals, and I just thought they were beautiful. This is before the internet, but I had books and started seeing that there was symbolism, and then it brought me closer to the animal. And I read a book called Women Who Run with Wolves by Clarissa Pinkola Estes. And there's a story in there called La Loba. And I didn't know it at the time, but I actually reenacted this story. 20 years later, the light bulb went on. I read her myth very quickly about a woman who is crying on the bank of a river, and she's searching and searching and searching, and she looks for the wolf bones, and she collects the bones until she finds every single last bone, even the teeny tiny toe bone, and then she lays all the bones out on the table in the shape of the wolf and sings over the bones until the wolf becomes fully furred and fully fleshed and races off into the wilderness, and by the glint of the sunlight or moonlight turns into a woman with hair that's streaked brown, red, and blonde.
Wow.
The bones helped me connect to my inner authentic essence without me even being consciously aware of it. Bones represent the soul, because at the end of this life, our body will deteriorate, decompose, but the bones remain. And that represents our soul, which is eternal. If you believe in reincarnation, we're going to come right back. So I was reclaiming the lost parts of myself that I and society had rejected.
That's
now
amazing.
that's symbolic. There was literal work going on in relationship with every animal bone that I found.
Right. And when you are finding and discovering these particular bones, are you, I'm trying to figure out the right way to put this, because I'm picturing a woman who's actually going ahead and dissecting the actual part of that animal and digging deep and looking into this. Out of all the things that you've learned over the course of time, because you've been doing this for a little while now in terms of animals as far as bones, etc., I'm wondering, from a technical standpoint, let's say you find these, what do you do with them in terms of preserving them? Because I don't know anything about this field, and as I said, it fascinates me. But I imagine you want to preserve that so that others can study it and learn from it.
Yes, exactly. So the way my process went, and it's been 20 years, is I found the bones. I found them interesting. I was like a child again. I didn't even know what I was doing, and I didn't care what people thought. We lived in a giant mansion in a very, very formal community. We did not have the ranch, a place to live at the ranch. It was just property. So I was bringing bones home and stuffing them in my formal living room. And the collection grew so much, you couldn't hide it. And first it started with bones, and then I started noticing dead animals on the road. And that really upset me, because now that I was getting, a bone was the closest I could ever get to a wild animal. And I was learning about anatomy and parts and symbolism. When I saw the dead animal on the road, I was sad that people were just running over the animal over and over again, and it felt like its life had no meaning. So I started stopping wherever I was, didn't matter what I was wearing or if it was a busy freeway, and I would take the animal off the road, do a little prayer, and return it to the soil.
Aww.
Because they decompose better on the soil and they're not run over by cars. That led to the animals. I just would get these inspirations. It was like I was connected to my higher self. This was my form of art. This was my connection to spirit. I didn't know it until I looked back and figured it out. And the reason it's so important is because I was doing something that made me happy without thinking about what other people thought. I was actually embarrassed. This is creepy. This is weird. Who else does this? I can't tell these high society people. But I did it anyway. So then I started realizing, this is before the internet, so I couldn't look things up, but I slowly but surely realized that Native American people did the same thing. They would honor every part of the animal. And they saw it as medicine. So a tail would represent balance, because an animal uses its tail for balance or communication. So then I would take that, and there was something about it that would talk to my psyche, and I would work on the concept of balance. And then every animal has a different essence. Like a raccoon has very different energy than a wolf. So I started collecting animal parts, and one animal part actually got maggots on it in my living room, which is so funny because I didn't know. I'm like, oh, it's just going to stay like this. And then I was like, oh, my gosh. I went back one day, and there were all these maggots, and it was eaten. So then I started realizing I have to get the meat off the bone, and I was just using my intuition. And I did all sorts of things like Clorox in water, using a knife, setting it in the sun, burying it, letting the ants eat it. I had so much fun. And then I would get this animal part, and to me it was beautiful. Like I had this warm, tender relationship with this animal who had crossed. I brought it back to life with my presence and my energy. And this is true of everything. If we're fully present in our home or with a friend, there's an energy that happens as opposed to thinking ahead in the future, doing. I'm all about being fully present with all of my senses open. And by getting intimate with the animals in that my own unique way, I decided I wanted a room to display everything, and I arranged everything like art. And then I looked up, this is, 20 years later, and I thought, holy smokes, it's palpable in here. There is so much good energy and beauty. This barn is my heart. This is where I find love. This is where I find complete 100% self-acceptance, because I accepted the animals. I loved them in their fullness when they were ugly or smelly with rotting flesh. And the rotting flesh represents that death aspect I was talking about before, where things have to end and be transformed.
That's amazing. It just is. And I think we as a society, again, take that for granted so much. The beauty that exists in life, sometimes the beauty that exists in death. And I think people never look deeply enough and to see that. So I think that's remarkable that you've chosen that. And especially you're like, I don't care what people think. I'm going to do it anyways. I absolutely love that attitude, because some of the biggest movers and shakers in life, period, are those that stop caring about what everyone else thinks and start caring about what their task is, what they're meant to do. That's huge, absolutely huge. Now, I know that the book that you did came out in February of 2018, so I'm curious to ask you how the response has been, not just from women, but men. I'm curious about that because this is, I'm guessing, more of a predominantly female sort of thing. So how is it going in terms of the book?
The book is going really well, and it was an amazing feat to write the book because I come from a culture, a society, family that's all about tangible work, effort, and results. So for me to write a book, sit on the couch, it took me 2.5 years. I had never been trained to write, and nobody knew why I would be writing a book about myself, nor did I know how to, and they didn't understand the process of being creative. So it was another example when I had to move away, reject society and the family to say, okay, I'm going to go out and do this. I need to learn something. And when you're in my space and you're judging me and you're not supporting me, it's holding me down. So I locked myself in the living room basically for 2.5 years and said no to pretty much everybody and everything, including my husband, poor guy, and wrote the book without ever being trained or thinking I would write a book. And it's been so exciting and fulfilling for me because it's what I want to do. It's all my wisdom coming together and contributing to make the world a better place with my unique inherent gifts. And so I'm getting great reviews. People are reaching out to me even when they don't write a review, saying, "I read your book. I love it. It spoke to me. It's causing me to think in new ways. It's so beautifully written." And guys are reading my book, which surprised me.
Really?
Yes.
That surprises Cindy, too, because I'm like, seriously? That would be the last thing I would think of, only because of the fact that you talk about being a wild woman in wilderness, and it's all very much about female empowerment. So I'm like, it's pleasant surprise, by the way, to hear that. But I'm a little taken aback by that, obviously.
It really is a pleasant surprise, and I just want to say that, men have feminine energy inside them, too. We all have feminine and masculine energy inside of us, as well as there's men and women outside of us. So that's probably what's speaking to these men, is their feminine side that they are not allowed to express either.
Right. Oh, no, I agree with you, definitely, without a doubt. And I know that, and so you folks are listening and you get a sense of what she's attempting to do with the book. One of the biggest things is that you want to assist women to reconnect with their inner selves. So if someone is sitting here listening today and they're thinking, what is she talking about? My inner self, da-da-da-da-da, has no clue, no idea. How do they start at the very beginning and say to themselves, what's the number one key when they start off on their life journey to trying to find who they really are? What's the first thing that they need to start looking at?
Really, the first thing is awareness, because there might be people out there who can't relate to what I'm saying, or they're not ready yet because they're working on other things. So there has to be an awareness, and somebody might already be aware of it, but they don't know what the next step is. Maybe this conversation will make somebody who wasn't aware of it. So awareness is key, because when you are aware of something and you acknowledge it, it's amazing how the universe will show up with people, thoughts, quotes, magazines, books that speak to where you want to go. It's really about being present and paying attention to the signs and the symbols and things that show up. And if you have a hunch of what your soul path is, follow that. So, for example, maybe there's someone out there who, like me, is in the corporate world but always wanted to be a painter. It just wasn't valued. Then that's a clue. Figure out a way to do the painting, whether it's on the side. What's the next step towards that? If you have absolutely no idea at all, one thing I recommend is sitting in nature with all of your senses open. Sight, sound, touch, taste, and see what comes up. Don't have an agenda or a destination. Don't have a friend. Don't have earbuds. You'll start to get in touch with your inner authentic self, and it will inform you of the next step. And then you just follow the little clues methodically, little by little.
That's such good advice, actually. I went onto the website, and I want to talk about a few components on the website. To those of you that have never been there, first of all, I want to ask you about, you have a neat little section where you used to do the blogs, but I see that happened last year. I'm just curious if you're going to restart those again, because I think most of us have kind of gotten used to reading blogs, and we kind of like them. So I was curious on that, if you're going to continue that.
Yes, it's interesting. It's exactly what I'm working on right now. It is quite a feat to write the book and then to actually physically make the book and then to publish the book, to do publicity around the book to make sure it gets out there and people see it. I'm just now at that point where I'm ready to do the blog, and I'm actually going to do a video blog. So I'm hoping to debut that this summer, yes.
Oh, my God, that's exciting, because video blogs are fun, and then they can see you, and they can actually self-expression, I think, is so important, whether it's physical, emotional. I love that concept. That's absolutely great. That's why I was like, God, I hope she keeps doing that blog. I'm like, that's awesome. Now, I'm going to show how stupid I am, folks, and I'm never afraid. If you knew me, you would know I'm never afraid to make a fool out of myself. So sometimes when I don't know stuff, I'm like, I totally go to my guest and I'm like, what is this all about? So there's 2 titles that I saw on your website, and I'm like, okay, first of all, a soul writing coach. I'm like, what? Because I'm a professional writer, so I'm like, okay, so she's a soul writing coach, this title right here. What exactly does that mean?
Yes. So I assume, based on your background, that your audience is very artistic and connected to. So you understand my language. I didn't know that. So what happened was, I mentioned, coming from this overproductive, make a plan, outline the action items, exert sheer will to get it done environment, it's a whole other thing to open up and receive inspiration and write from your higher self or your soul. And I didn't really know how to do that, and that's what the soul coach was guiding me to do. And what would happen is I was a good succinct writer because I came from business, and I have a sharp mind, so I can take things and reduce them and make them very productive and easy to read. And she would help me say, that's your masculine side, reducing things down. I want you to open up. I want to get to your vulnerable self, to your soul. What is the truth here? And that's very hard to do. This is a mirror of what happens to us every day in the world, and why it's so hard to tap into your authentic self in your everyday life, because people judge us. The second they hear something about you that they don't like or resonate with, could be your religion, could be the color of your skin, could be your language, you're swearing a lot, whatever, you have a tattoo. You come up against someone who judges it, you feel that, and then you put up a little wall. It creates disconnection. So it's the same thing when you're writing. If you're worried about what other people are going to think when you write it, you're kind of putting up a wall there, and then the reader can't connect with you. So you have to sort out all these voices in your head and get to that true, authentic place where you are vulnerable, which is universal, and then your story is everybody's story. And that's your authentic self, your soul. So that's a soul writing coach.
I absolutely love that. And then the other term, of course, illuminator of archetypes. I'm like, I don't even know where to go with that. I'm like, what's happening with that? I mean, what does that even mean? Seriously. I'm like, I'm a really smart woman, but I'm like, what?
Yeah, this is very esoteric stuff that I deal with. I know, I understand that, and that's the beauty of me coming from the mainstream world, is that people can relate to me, and I'm not just esoteric. But thank you for asking these questions. I love this so much.
Thank you.
That just so happens to be my sister, Lindsay. I have 3 sisters, and we have so much fun together. What she has done is, if you've heard of Joseph Campbell, he's a great mythologist, and then Clarissa Pinkola Estes, as I mentioned earlier, same thing. They speak in archetypes. What they're saying is that symbols, dreams, and the stories, myths, speak the language of our soul. So if you read or listen to stories, it speaks the language of the soul, and you don't even have to intellectually understand what's going on to have your soul respond. Just be open to it. So Lindsay, my sister, the archetypal queen, can talk to someone and see what archetypes, personalities, energy are inside of them that want to emerge, that maybe are afraid. It could be a woman who has always been subservient to the male culture, and yet she wants to express her warrior self, and she doesn't know how to. So Lindsay will take her and say, I see the Athena archetype in you. It's the energy of the feminine warrior. And we're going to dress you up and make a big headdress for you, because the crown chakra is what connects to the spiritual realm, the authentic self, the soul, or the heart.
Sure.
And we're going to have you embody this, and then I'm going to take a picture and capture it, because when you do that, your soul's going to remember it, and then, like I mentioned earlier, lighted paths will follow to open that up and expand it even more and make it a reality in your everyday life.
Wow. I'm just sitting here totally having that moment. Remember Divine Secrets of the Yaya Sisterhood? I'm like, oh my God, I'm living this right now. Like literally listening to this. I'm like, I could totally envision this going on in my head right now. It's like so cool. Now, I want to mention, of course, because this is a big thing, because obviously you're not just an author and you're not just a human being. Clearly you provide a number of different consultations and services to women so that this way they can be empowered and embody their true selves. So first of all, I want to talk a bit about, you do something called, I love this, the voice memo chats. Talk to the folks about voice memo chats, because I think that this is such an integral part of what you do.
Oh, thank you. I have been a counselor my whole life. People have always come to me, even when I was a teenager, and they just tell me things and say, I don't know why I just said that. I've never told anyone that. And they just feel comfortable and safe, and that's what we need. We need to tell our stories and get it out unfiltered without worrying about what the other person is going to think. So I am that sacred, safe place where people can talk and say anything, and I won't judge them. And it's a container that gets it out of their head, and then they can see it and ultimately self-mentor themselves, and I guide them by telling them what I see. Never tell them what to do. I just tell them what I see. And a long time ago, because people were always seeking me out for advice, it was just really hard to be held captive on the phone. So when the iPhone was invented, I started I used to leave voicemails, really long voicemails, like 3 minutes, and they would cut you off, and everybody said, oh my gosh, I feel like you're live. That transferred into, I need more time. What's this voice memo thing? And I started recording voice memos, 30 minutes long, because that's about 28 minutes is all you can send to a text. And people loved it, and it turned into a counseling technique where somebody sends me an audio, 20, 30 minutes. They're having a problem. They just got in a big fight with their husband, and they're just exasperated, or they're sad. I receive it, I listen, I get hits, and then I respond with another 30-minute audio that they can re-listen to over and over and over at any time they want. And there's something about my voice that they find soothing, and the wisdom that comes through me that guides them. And it's a thing. I have thousands of hours of video, of audio chats with people that are so healing and transformative. And the beauty is you don't have to schedule an appointment. You can do it whenever you want. You can do it at midnight. You can do it, and then you can respond whenever you want. And it's a lot more timely because I do a lot of work late at night. I really resonate with the animal of owl. So at 1 a.m, I can respond to my videos, my audios, and then people receive them first thing in the morning.
Wow. I love that. I absolutely love that. And get this, just when you think it doesn't get any better, wait, there's more. The Mother-Daughter Sacred Circle. I was just thinking about that because it's Mother's Day. And I'm like, we totally should talk about that because Mother's Day is coming up. I'm a mom myself. I'm like, that sounds like it's such an amazing bonding experience. So talk a bit about what you offer within the course of doing that circle. Where do you do this? What's involved with it? This sounds so neat.
Yes, so I mentioned that we live in this beautiful property that's on the edge of civilization and wilderness in Silicon Valley. So we moved here full-time several years ago, and this is where my barn is, which is really magical with all the animals. It's like a natural history museum, but palpable and just stunning. I'm about presence, so there is a lot of energy that exchanged when you're fully present. I've had groups of women come out with their daughters, and the daughters are grown, and these people are very close to each other, so they don't know what to expect when they come out, and when they leave, their mind is completely open, and it's just an extraordinary transformative experience because I opened them up in ways that they never thought would happen because they already thought they were close enough. So you start by coming into my barn, and we sit and talk. and I ask a couple questions. What's on your mind? Just tell me. Whatever it is, come up. And then we do some animal totem exploration. Then I take them on a walk around our ranch, which as I mentioned, is at the base of the Santa Cruz Mountains, and a complete silence. And we walk really slow. And I say, open your eyes and your ears and your sense of smell and everything, and don't think, and just see what happens. And we walk really slowly. Most people have never done this before, 20, 30 minutes around the ranch. Nobody says a word. And then we come in and circle and talk about what happened. And the things that come up for them when they're not thinking or doing or having an agenda or hurrying through something or chit-chatting and being distracted is astounding. That's a connection with your higher self. That's what I bring out in them. And then because it's a sacred container and we share with each other, we learn more about ourselves and the other, which is very, very intimate and deep. And that was one thing I forgot to say about my relationship with the animals. When I was working with the dead animals and working to get at the bone, it actually brought me to tears because I loved that animal. And that was intimacy. I loved the animal even when it was ugly and smelly. I saw the beauty, and that is the intimacy that I created with people that I was never able to experience because everybody judges everybody and expects them to look, act, and think a certain way. So I found intimacy with the animals, and that's what I try to create with people who come here to the ranch.
Wow. I want to do it. I'm like literally like, where do I sign up? Thank you very much.
Come.
No,
yes,
I want to.
You are invited anytime.
Well, I have to get back to California, of course. But I love this idea, as a matter of fact. I do. I looked at your life stage transition ceremony, and I'm going to guess that that is not limited to just older women, meaning that we don't have to be mature. It could very well be that a millennial or someone of a younger age category can be doing a life stage transition. Or am I mistaken?
No, you're absolutely right. There are so many life stages that are, well, a lot of them are neglected and ignored, or they're sort of watered down. There's not a lot of magic there, that invisible essence that really touches you. So, one life stage is young girls when they come into their period. That is overlooked, and getting in touch with your body and what it means and loving it and the relationship to the moon. That's one transition. Another one could be to motherhood. Another one could be to eldership. There's so many transitions in life stages. Graduation, birthday.
Marriage.
Yes, marriage. Yes, I've done a lot of weddings.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no,
that's more the negative side. But
true.
That is a transition.
It's an ending and a new beginning, remember? So there is another law. Something has to die for something new to be born. That's the law of nature. But we don't want to talk about death in our society. I work very closely with death, as you know, through the animals. I know a lot about death, and symbolically, not just literally.
You betcha, without a doubt. And, of course, she rounds it off with, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. I apologize.
No, you go.
I was just going to mention, of course, we don't want to forget Women on a Mission and Inner Wildness. I love the fact that every one of these consultations centers around nothing but positivity, that it's all about improving oneself, getting an inner connection with oneself, working on who we are and realizing that we have that inner self. And it's okay to be wild, because I'm 48 years old. I have raised children half of my life, and all of a sudden now I find myself, I'm not going to lie, I'm attracted to small children a lot, meaning male small children, like court jesters, if you will. I like to have fun and be silly and ridiculous and skinny dip and do all those things that society is like, no, you don't want to do that. You know what I mean? So I embrace the fact, and I love the fact that you're offering all these different things. It's for all different stages, all different sorts of women. And most importantly, I like the fact, maybe it's just me, 30-minute consultations are great because most of us are crazy busy. Second of all, an hour long seems a bit much as it relates to that. And what's really super cool about this is when you do a consultation, if I'm not mistaken, just because you're in California doesn't mean you can't consult all over the world, correct?
Correct. I do a lot of consulting, most of it by the phone, actually.
Oh, my gosh. And do you Skype as well? I was just going to say, you do Skype. That's what I thought, because I was like, yeah, because sometimes when you're in nature, I know it sounds stupid to some of you folks, but the reality is we don't all have that luxury of having great Wi-Fi, et cetera. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, well, I have to ask the question because you never know. even when we've become a tech-savvy universe. So I'm like, okay, which is absolutely awesome. And one of the things that I want to be able to mention is, folks, she's obviously onto something. She's been featured in numerous different publications, including Natural Medicine News, Gentry, She Speak. She has put together this book, as you're mentioning. It's wildly fabulous. Not only that, it's doing so well. I want to know, out of all of these experiences, out of everything you've learned, what's the number one rule that you live by every day?
I keep my thoughts, my goal is to keep my thoughts and emotions in check and say, is this thought and emotion and action that would come as a result of my thought and emotion, is it going to create unity or division?
That's a really good question, actually.
Yeah, exactly. It really, every argument that I might have with a person or every judgment creates division. And so I've learned how to fly above it and see what's really going on so that I can meet people where they're at and not judge them.
That's such a beautiful message. That just is. And I think, as we have mentioned here, it all comes down to, once you start learning who you are and what you are, it makes it so much easier to figure out what you need to do and where you need to go. I would think you would concur with that. I think it's just kind of the next logical step in life. And as we get older and we mature and we learn more, my hope is that there's going to end up being thousands and thousands of Lucindas out there, because there's so many of us that have kind of lost track of where we're going. Sometimes all we need is a gentle nudge or a push or somebody to just say, hey, here's where you're supposed to be right now. And if you can't figure it out, I'll let you know, in fact. Because it's ironic you're on my show. I say this all the time. I believe people are brought to me all the time. And yes, of course, Antonia approached me and she's like, yes, I want you to interview this person on my show. But I believe there's no accidents anymore. There's a reason why you're on my show. There's a reason why I spoke to you today. There's a reason why somebody listening today will reach out to you and say, this woman is onto something. I need to talk to her. I need to learn something and discover something about myself. So what you're providing people is an immeasurable service that can't be thanked, just in case you don't know that.
Well, thank you for saying that, and bless you, and you are doing the same. I'm so grateful for this opportunity, and I love it that you understand me and get me, and you are that childlike, wild woman. I love it that you connect with children. Keep going. Keep going and do it. And
why did you just say that? That's very ironic that you just said that. I've spent the last 24 hours meeting with people and asking them where I should go and what I should do. I was just saying this to Antonia, actually, as a matter of fact. Once you become more and more successful and more things come along, the more petrified you become, or at least this woman is getting more and more petrified. And so people are around me all the time saying, you're such a Wonder Woman and you're such a this and this. And all I keep saying is, no. And I keep kind of pushing it away and being like, no, maybe I shouldn't do this. No, maybe I shouldn't do this. And here this lovely young lady, you, comes on my show today and says such a wonderful thing to me. That's so very sweet. I'm still trying to figure it out.
Yes, because that's the unity I'm talking about. If we can just see who people are on the soul, that's connective, because that soul connects to spirit that runs through all things, whether it's a tree, an animal, or a person. And I just saw your soul there when you were talking about being attracted to young children and wanting to play and do things that society didn't. That's it. That's your soul. Yes. That's your authentic self. It's your childlike essence. That's where you go to get the clues and the answers.
Yes, and I am literally day by day. I just said this to someone the other day. Even though everything is, and yes, folks, forgive me, because we're internet-based radio, and I never try to do this, but the reality is I'm so fucked up right now. Like, everything couldn't be more screwed up, but yet more not screwed up. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, everything feels like, even though it's a mess, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. I have felt more peace, even though there's so much chaos in the last week. I don't know what it is, but I think that means I'm getting closer. I hope.
Absolutely, and that's why people fear change, because to change, there's chaos. So you could say the same thing about the world. It's just going to take longer for the world, but you're a microcosm of macrocosm, and I feel it. You are at a point of huge transformation, and you're in that chaos point. It's going to come out the other side, evolved with a higher vibration, doing even more amazing things.
Oh,
Yes.
my gosh, how sweet
That's
are
it.
you? Listen to her. Oh, my gosh. See, now you see what I'm talking about? We literally have just talked almost an hour, and it feels like I just got on the phone. Like, seriously. I tell people that constantly. I'm like, it goes just like that. I mean, seriously. It just feels like, hopefully it feels like a comfortable conversation, of course. And I am sorry that I kept you waiting, and I'm sorry that I'm in the middle of a restaurant, but unfortunately you got to do what you got to do to get the job done. Now, there's 3 business things that we need to do. First of all, I want to tell you and the listening audience, once this interview gets finished, about 2 hours from now, it becomes an archived episode. I will send over to you the link for Blog Talk Radio, which is where the format we're on. I also upload all of my shows onto YouTube, so it'll be on my YouTube channel, so you can check that out, of course. I want to read off every single place, and yes, there's about 70 of them, that Lucinda is located on, so this way you guys can go ahead and look her up. And when I get finished, Lucinda, if you just let me know if I've missed anything, I'd appreciate it. So here we go. Her name is Lucinda, and I'm going to spell the middle name. I believe it's Lucinda Bakken White, and I'm going to spell that. It's Lucinda, middle Bakken, last name, of course, White, the color white. Same name for the website, lucindabackenwhite.com. She has a Twitter handle, which is @the_Lucinda_White. Instagram, Lucinda_Bakken_White, and also on Goodreads, Pinterest, LinkedIn, Facebook, Amazon, Smashwords, Google+. Have I missed anything?
Oh my gosh, I think you covered it all. That's incredible. Thank you. You're such a generous, bright light. Amazing you are.
Oh my gosh.
I love talking to you today.
Well, thank you. The very last thing that I get to do before I let you go, put my face on and run 40 minutes to my next appointment, because I'm kind of sad that you have to leave me. But the last thing I do on the show, which everybody knows in case you haven't heard my show, is I get to tell the guests what I think of them. And the reason that I do that is because it's absolutely non-scripted. So everything else might be scripted, but this is not. What that means is it comes directly from my heart to yours. And I think it's important that people hear that, because a journalist can research anything. When it comes down to my personal thoughts, that's not anything that you can research. So here we go. Here's my 2-minute synopsis of little Lucinda here. The reason why I wanted you to come on my show, first and foremost, is because obviously I trust Antonia. She's an absolutely wonderful person who gravitates to positive energy, and I can clearly see why you and her are working together. That goes without saying. So barring the obvious fact, which is she asked me, and I gladly said yes, I took a look at you. And the first thing that I noticed when I looked into your eyes is this is a woman who has a life that's fulfilled, not a life that's flawed or faltered, meaning you are completely in tune with the fact that you know what you need to do to live and breathe life every day in every viable form and format. That is a gift that is never to be taken advantage of, and it's a gift that not everyone is blessed with in life. One of the most beautiful things about you is that you can see the radiance that you radiate radiance, and I know that that doesn't make sense to some people, but it's true. There's a magnificence that comes across from some people. You could see it in their eyes, you can see it in their face, you can see it in their body gestures. You resonate from top to bottom, this beautiful radiance, this peace that everybody longs to see. It's almost like a godlike quality. God is in all of us, and I learned that from someone a very long time ago. And yes, I'm a Catholic person. But what I do know is I gravitate to beautiful beings. I gravitate to beautiful souls and to people who have a meaning and a message. You have a clear meaning and a clear message that touches more souls than you probably know. One of the things that I admire most is that you are a female that uses all of her talents for good. You're doing it for rightful and righteous purpose. That is, again, not something that we have in this world, and surely not enough of. I feel very blessed that you came on my show today. If nothing else, to spread your beautiful message to everyone in the world. And I wish you plenty of success. And trust me, the next time I come to California, we'll have to find each other, because I'm sure I have some questions to ask you, and I believe you have some answers for me. But in the meantime, just know if I can help you again, know that you're welcome anytime.
Cindy, oh my goodness. I just
Are you okay?
basked. If more people would do that to people in their life, the world would be a better place. I just basked in all of your love and the energy that you showered on me, and it's going to carry forward into the universe. Thank you. And I have to just say, you were speaking to yourself in the mirror. You know I'm your mirror. We're soul sisters. I am so grateful. You're amazing.
Oh, my gosh. Now you're going to make me cry. Goodness. And I'm the one who usually makes the other ones. My gosh. Goodness. Well, please enjoy the rest of your afternoon. I'm so glad you took the time, and I'm sorry we had to postpone you, but I'm glad that we got this in, and I appreciate you having patience for me. And certainly, like I said, don't be a stranger. I will stay in touch, and I'll let you know when I'm back.
all is good. No apology necessary. I'm ever grateful. Thank you. Bless you. Love you.
Oh, right back at you, doll. I'll talk to you soon. You have a great day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Tell me she wasn't fabulous, right? I'm totally going to cry all the way in my drive down to go meet my next appointment. Fabulous, fabulous. And I feel the need to cry. So I'm just going to wrap it up as quickly as I can. Again, her name Lucinda Bakken White, and that's Lucinda Bakken White. She has a personal page on Facebook. On Twitter, it's at the Lucinda White. Instagram, Lucinda_Bakken_White. She's on Goodreads, Pinterest, LinkedIn, Amazon, Smashwords, and Google+. And, of course, the website, lucindabakkenwhite.com. Again, the name of the book is Confessions of a Bone Woman, Realizing Authentic Wildness in a Civilized World. My big thanks to Lucinda, of course, one more time, Antonia. Hopefully you're listening in. I love you. I can't thank you enough for this. This has been a magical experience today. I'm off the air now, you guys, obviously all weekend long. Happy Mother's Day to all the wonderful women out there that are mothers and blessed to have children, including myself. Thanks so much to everybody listening in, and I'll be back on the air Monday or Tuesday. Don't quote me. I'm flying back home to Wisconsin tomorrow. I'll post it up over the weekend. I'll let you know. You guys have a great weekend. Take care.
Every so often, there's a reason to go to the movies. Book Club has 4.
Hi, beautiful friends.
Diane Keaton, Jane Fonda, Candice Bergen, and Mary Steenburgen.
I am not going to let us become those people who stop living before they stop living. Let me introduce you to Christian Grey. Oh, no.
Oh, wow.
Critics are calling Book Club hilarious.
Certainly sounds like us.
A 4-star delight. The must-see comedy of the summer.
Happy reading, ladies.
Book Club, directed by Bill Holderman. In theaters this Friday. Rated PG-13. May be inappropriate for children under 13. Every so often, there's a reason to go to the movies. Book Club has 4.
Hi, beautiful friends.
Diane Keaton, Jane Fonda, Candice Bergen, and Mary Steenburgen.
I am not going to let us become those people who stop living before they stop living. Let me introduce you to Christian Grey. Oh, no.
Oh, wow.
Critics are calling Book Club hilarious.
Certainly sounds like us.
A 4-star delight. The must-see comedy of the summer.
Happy reading, ladies.
Book Club, directed by Bill Holderman. In theaters this Friday. Rated PG-13. May be inappropriate for children under 13.